Hey everybody, it's Sunday, November 5th, and I am super pumped because this week we are officially getting approval on our Mitchell Acres subdivision right here. This is a plat map in Midland County, Texas. It's about $3.5 to $4 million worth of land. Like, this is probably 3 or 4 months in the making, at least tens of thousands of dollars, and a lot of pain in the butt with the county officials and going back and forth. But got a big lot here with the house. Y'all probably see me talk about this project. It's got 19 acres with like a $700,000 custom built home. And then there's 63 other smaller lots around here, mostly 2-acre lots that make up this 150 acres. This was a pain in the butt. This is a major subdivide. These can be really painful and difficult and frustrating to push through, but it's the best way to scale into like the multi-millions. I'm gonna walk you guys through the numbers on this because a lot of investors, real estate investors, do not share their numbers, right? I talk about this being $3.5 or $4 million gross sales. We bought it, me and an investor, friend of mine, business partner, for $1.1 million. Now, Jazzland came in with 10% of the cost of the land, which is 1.1, plus 10% of any of the improvements. So survey, anything needed with the county, eventual roads, and a little bit of dirt work, but that's about it. So I think all said and done, we're gonna be in for 1.4 million with all improvements. I'll be out of pocket 140,000. The investor, my friend, will be 1.26 million, give or take. We're gonna pay him back first, so a preferred return, and then we're gonna split profits after that. So, you know, pay him back his 1.25, call it, and then, you know, if it's 3.5 million gross, that's 2.25 million of profit to split. So, you know, call it $1 million probably gross to me for $140,000 investment. Now, we don't always, that's the thing about land and real estate, we don't always own 100% equity in the deal. For me, I love to own 100% equity. This is actually a rare deal for me because, you know, like my Andrews deal, which I've been posting about here quite a bit recently because it's an active subdivide that I got going on. That Andrews project, I own 100%. I have some debt on the property. I try to never pay cash, but either seller financing or private debt, because when I utilize debt, I see 100% of the upside, right? As opposed to a project like this, where I have to give up equity and a split of the profit, I don't get to see the 2.25 or $2.5 million upside. I wish I did. I would make twice as much profit. But sometimes deals like this and situations come up with a good friend of mine and business partner where I'm not gonna pass it up, right? I mean, I can't complain with the numbers for me, and I know he wouldn't complain with the numbers for him. Everyone's happy, win-win, we're making a bunch of money. Now for beginners, I recommend doing it more like this. Either come out of pocket a little bit because the investor wants to see that you have some skin in the game. That's always good. But if you have absolutely no money, you need to find someone who can fund the project and any of the improvements, and then pay them a preferred return, and then do some sort of profit split on the back end, whether it's 50-50, 60-40, 70-30 in their favor, whatever you have to do when you're getting started. I recommend doing it this way because when you're a beginner, because you don't want to be responsible for debt. I talk about using debt on all these big subdivides, buying a $500,000, million, $1.5 million deal with seller financing or private money at 16 to 18%. Like, you are responsible for paying back those investors. You are responsible for paying those sellers, especially when you're subdividing the land and selling it off to your customers, right? You got to really know what you're doing. There's more risk involved, and it's not a beginner strategy. So as a beginner, I always recommend finding someone, if you're doing large projects and need funding, give them a majority of the profit, have them fund the deal, and you just operate it. That's a great way to get experience. It's a great way to make a bunch of money using other people's money. So this will be approved hopefully in 2 days. It's going in front of the Commissioner's Court, the official plat. This is a copy of the Mylar. The official plat, this is another project I did, my other big major subdivide in Midland County. This is the Jazz Acres development. This is a Mylar with the official signatures of myself, utilities, the county officials, etc. I had my surveyor make me a copy of the Mylar for this project. That way I have it for sales have it for video content like this. I like to get extra copies of these because I'm going to put it up on my wall as well when it's eventually stamped and approved. So it's always handy to have extra copies, big copies of your subdivides. I recommend it. Great for marketing, right? People really like to see the visual proof, especially your customers. You go out on a piece of land and you got this and you're showing them like, this is as good as gold, like this is the official plat. And so they really like to see that. It helps build credibility. That's always what we should be trying to do, is building credibility in the marketplace's eyes, our buyers' eyes, which is the marketplace, and for other investors who see us doing these projects and want to invest money. We're networking, other people in the network. It's all about building credibility, in my opinion, at least. So as you're building your brand, as you're doing these projects, thinking with that in mind, how can we, show receipts, show numbers? That's why I like talking about the numbers. Like, I like to try and be an open book with all my stuff, whether it's how much money I'm making, the number splits on deals like this, am I using debt, am I using investors, how are sales going, the whole 9 yards. Because unless you're fully transparent and show receipts and numbers, like, there's a lot of people out there flashing gross receipts. Ooh, I made $4 million, or I made $10 million on this project, but they had 5 different investors in it and they only had 2% of the equity and they made $50,000. I could say, oh, I made $10 million, but in reality I had 1%, so I made $100,000. Like, that's just nothing compared to $10 million, obviously. So very excited about this one. Major subdivides are hard to pull off, easier said than done. Even outside of the city limits, this is outside of city limits. Basically little to no restrictions. We had to do an HOA. We're having to do a little bit of a drainage plan with building some detention ponds, but they're more like big bar ditches alongside of the road. Light restrictions in the HOA, and having to build caliche roads 22 foot wide. So having to do a little bit of things, but it's nothing compared to like full entitlement inside of city limits. I try to stay away from that stuff. I'm looking at another project out there. It's in the ETJ, which is the extraterritorial jurisdiction, which is not the city limits, but basically the city limits, and where the city projects growth and they impose more regulations. And it's just, you have to go through platting, you have to pave roads. Like, it's a whole another level as opposed to operating outside of the city limits and still doing a major subdivide. Now, who am I going to sell this land to? It's going to be straight to Joe Schmo in Midland, Texas, who wants to move out on 2 acres of land, have little restrictions, have livestock, mobile home, store some stuff out there, maybe have a workshop, stuff like that. So I'm not going to work with a developer here. I could, if DR Horton or some builder or whatever said, hey, I want to buy your 63 lots for 15 or 20,000 per acre, I'd entertain it. Depends on the numbers, I'd sell it to them. But those are few and far in between. What you're going to find is the developers are not nearly as easy to work with as to just sell this to Joe Schmo in the city. And I project all 60 of these lots, if we do a really good job, probably 3 months it'll take to sell. If it goes a little bit longer and things kind of, more conservative approach, probably 6 months. So 3 to 6 months to get all this sold just to straight residential consumer, as opposed to having to go through a due diligence period and give a developer all this time to test this and test that and wait for them to get their funding and close it and blah, blah, blah. I'd much rather start cranking sales to the average everyday customer. So this project, very excited about it. It's going to be a good amount of cash flow to come in to feed the system, go do more subdivides. Andrews County deal, we got 32 lots out there that we're selling. That is a plat exempt deal, so not a major subdivide. It's a minor subdivide technically, even though we have an access and utility easement. We had 32 lots out there. I think we're at 18 out of 32 sold in a month and a half. So that's great. Like, that's to be expected. That's the 3-month timeline, which I gave for this project. Over on that project, a month and a half of it sold. On pace to sell out in a month and a half, probably all be sold by year end over there, which is fantastic. I have a $100,000 note sitting on my desk there somewhere. If y'all saw my office right now, you would think I'm a very unorganized, messy person, but it's a organized mess, I promise you. It's a problem when we're operating at this like super fast pace. There's paperwork coming in, there's receipts, there's closing statements, people calling me, I'm running sales, running my team, etc. I try to push it at a very, very fast pace because that's how you grow your company. That's how you do more deals. And if you want to scale and scale quickly, you need to operate with urgency, in my opinion. I like a really small team, very hands-on approach myself. I still run sales and do everything. So it's going to be a very exciting week here coming up, especially with starting sales on this project. I'm sure it'll be crazy hectic, being blown up with messages. We're doing ads right now in the Andrews deal, and we're getting about $8 per message. And I'm spending about $100 per day. So I'm getting, 10 messages per day or so there. I'll crank this one up. I'll probably be getting another 10 or 20 messages there. Plus, we still have another couple small projects going on. So we're running at probably 20, 30, 40 leads per day on Facebook right now, which is great. More people seeing the brand, more people wanting land, more people in my pipeline, in the Facebook CRM, so to speak. And it's exciting. Year end's coming up, and I don't see any slowdown in land sales coming. Year end, people get concerned, is land gonna slow down? Less people buying real estate. I've never really seen a slowdown in land, and I'll talk about that more on future talks on Sundays going forward as we get into the holiday season, and I'll show you actual proof of if land sales are slowing down or if we're still seeing a good amount of sales going into the holidays. Make sure to be running holiday specials as we go into Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, etc. Always a good way to boost sales. But yeah, super excited about this one this week. Andrews County is going good, and I'm on the prowl for my next big subdivide, so we'll see how it goes.